Hey everybody, Stu Smith here going live. Happy Monday. We are going to talk about how do you know when you're ready? It's always a great question. We all ask at some point throughout our training. And in a nutshell, you don't really know you're ready until you're in the test. I mean, everything is speculation until you're there, whether that is a spec ops selection, it is a academy, boot camp, work related, new guy at work, whatever. We all have anxiety when we're going into something new, completely natural. So, one, don't beat yourself up about it and don't doubt yourself about it, though doubt is natural as well. My advice is this: there are a couple of things that you can think about when you're asking yourself, am I ready? So, there's two things. The first one is the easy one, and these are very objective grading points. It's like this is now this you would have to specialize for um, any activity that you're doing, but the one I'm about to post here is a common article that I share quite often about the physical assessment of your training. Can you do these numbers? Now, there's nothing fancy about these numbers. These are just average numbers of people who have succeeded in the journey of going in any spec ops job. Now, if you're going army and there's a lot less swimming, you can disregard the swimming. If you're going navy and there's a lot less rucking, you can disregard the rucking pace to a degree. You still will ruck some, but you need to understand that whatever your PST is, your IFT, your fitness test, whatever that is, there are standards that put you in a good place as far as exceeding the standard and having success afterwards. There's also a place in your training and your scoring of these other events, longer runs, longer swims, lifts, your rucks, all those things that aren't typical pre selection fitness tests that you will be doing. So if you're only training for the fitness test, you have a rude awakening coming to you because it's about to get longer and a lot more effort's going to be needed to endure a multiple month selection and training program than it is to endure a 40-minute fitness test. So there's that. So that's the objective grading criteria. Now, what is the subjective grading criteria? And these are the type of things that I like people to ask themselves and start doing long before they leave. If you're like a month out, I mean, yeah, you can ask yourself because that's when the anxiety usually starts, but this usually happens years before you go. You need to start doing these things. One, take time and learn about your future. Conduct real, in depth research on what you're about to do. Read books, watch movies, watch interviews of people who have done the job that you want to do. Get their feedback. And you also have to remember what they're telling you is their opinion of their experience. That may not be the same as somebody else's experience, because everybody has a strength and a weakness going in, and usually they're quite different depending on the person. Once again, the real easy one to understand on this one. If you're a strength athlete, probably not going to have a hard time under the logs and boats, but you'll have a hard time with the runs and swims, typically. If you're an endurance athlete, probably not going to have a hard time with the runs and swims, but you may have a hard time with the logs and boats. We all have those pieces of initial weaknesses that we have to turn into less of a weakness, borderline strength, if you will. So, have you done enough research? Do you know it's going to be? If you haven't read, if you're going to buds, if you haven't read By Water Beneath the Walls, you need to read it. And really, to be honest with you, any spec ops job, because that is about all spec ops post World War One into World War Two and before Vietnam. It's a neat process of how these needs for these type of special ops missions were created. In fact, the first time they started doing them, they called them commando missions. Really cool book, By Water Beneath the Wall, Ben Milligan. I would lift it up and show it to you, but I handed it to a guy the other day, told him to read it. So that's a great place to start your research, and then take some time to really learn what what it's all about. Otherwise, you know, you're not preparing. And when you ask that question, did I do enough to prepare? After a good amount of research and some time preparing, you can say yes. I've done everything I can. I'm ready to go. Even on a bad day, I can crush this test. Even on a bad day, I can do a 4 mile timed run. Even on a bad day, I can swim 2 miles. You need to be able to say that. Um, so that was, learn about your job, conduct a rigorous self assessment. That text or that link I just sent you, go through those. Those are very objective grading criteria, that good ballpark figure of where you need to be. That'll give you a true understanding of yourself and can help you shape how you prepare in the very near future. Um, Committing to consistency requires discipline and focus. Are you consistently training hard for what you're trying to do? Are you consistently seeking recovery? That means eating and sleeping well. Are you consistently not doing stupid things socially? Or are you consistently not wasting your time being sedentary in between workouts? These are things that you need to commit to. Don't be inconsistent with any of those. Do you have a structured training plan? Now, not all training plans are personalized. Like, for instance, all of mine, they may have a specific goal and end result that you seek, but it is not a personalized path for you. You may have to structure any training program to fit your abilities, your facilities, your equipment, your time per day, days per week, your strengths and weaknesses. You may have to adjust some of those things to make that fit what you're trying to do with what you have today. And that's why I'm here. People send me emails, say, hey, this is my weakness. This is my program. I got your Navy SEAL phase 2, 3. Is this what I need? How can I adjust it? Because I'm only running 10 miles a week right now. We can make those easy adjustments every week and teach them how to progress logically. That's the type of stuff you do, because here's what happens. You go into that program, you can crush everything. You're adding reps, you're adding weight even. But running is crushing you because you're not altering the run mileage each week, and you jump into somebody else's progression. Next thing you know, you have shin splints and you can't run for a month. Those are types of things we're trying to avoid. So create a structured training plan, whether it is self-created or you are adjusting programs. Sometimes you don't have to change a single thing. It works. If it works for you, that's awesome. If it doesn't, we can make adjustments. And then the other one is avoid setting arbitrary timelines. This is the biggest one for me. I can't tell you how many people go talk to recruiters. They're at beginning of their senior year. They're in the delayed entry program for 9 months, and their plan is to ship out the month after they graduate high school. And 9 times out of 10, maybe even 95 times out of 100, so 9.5 times out of 10, that is not sufficient in your ability to make it through very challenging spec ops training programs. Just because you set this training deadline, this is where you are, your timeline to start, like to ship out, versus why not set a training timeline and like these are the scores I need to have, then I go ship out. Because most people can't get there in the short amount of time they set for themselves. It's just sometimes it's just impossible. Or they neglect so much within that window that it just crushes them. And they're part of that massive attrition rate that you see every class that, between the week 1 and week 4, people quit big time. I mean, 75% of your class probably right there. In fact, it's a lot of times even during prep, people are quitting. They realize they have not prepared when they show up. They're in it, and they realize all the people around them have prepared much more than them, and they get this imposter syndrome. I have seen people who show up there ill prepared and make it, and they just gutted every single day out like nobody's business, and it's impressive to watch. It's hard to watch, because just so many variables that can hurt that person, but they make it through anyway. That's an impressive thing to see. But it's very rare. Absolutely very rare. So, in fact, this question is so popular, I made it a chapter. I think it's chapter 7, chapter 8 in Never Quit Mindset. Let me see. It is chapter 7. How do you know you're ready? Focus on weaknesses, maintain strengths, build confidence. You do that, you'll know you're ready. And to be honest with you, I didn't know I was ready until I was there. I thought I was ready. I mean, I could go through a day and I would be at a point of my pre-training, and I'm like, I feel good on this, I feel good on this. There's not much that I feel bad at doing. Um, if there was anything that had a little question mark to it, is would I be able to keep this pace up for how many miles we're going to do? That was my challenge. Um, and yeah, whenever run came, I had to bring that A game and use a little mental toughness to stay in that pack. Uh, but even then, even if you don't stay in the pack, you pay the man with some sprints and some goon squad, you move on. The only thing you don't want to do is fail. There's some objective grades that you have to meet. If you don't meet those standards, you're done. It's just the way it works. No matter how tough you are. If you're not fast enough, not strong enough, you could be done. Um, but yeah, I would say within a couple of weeks, I was like, yeah, I can do this. I wasn't cocky about it. I will say it answered my question, did I do enough to prepare? There were a couple of things where I was like, oh, should have done more of those. Should have done more wet and sandy flutter kicks because those sucked. Um, but you got through it and just grinded through it. And I don't think I could have run more. I don't think I could have swum more, lifted more, PT'd more. It was what it is what it is. It was what it was. um, all right, so we got a whole bunch of questions. Looks like are popping in. A lot of you guys are out of class nowadays. Hopefully, your last semester of college or ending semester of college. All right, we got a couple questions here. Stu, in a cut right now, so cutting body weight, I would assume. I'm doing walk runs for my cardio, try to minimize that muscle loss. Once I end the cut, I'll try to start ramping up my running and swimming. Start your 13 weeks to buds, 12 weeks to buds. Am I overthinking, or is this a solid plan? If you need to lose weight, I mean, it sounds like a solid plan, but I'll be honest with you, that workout is really tough, and um, you're probably going to lose weight anyway. So eat your carbs, get fueled before you go work out, and you'll probably still lose weight. But it's up to you how you do it. I just have a way to do it. There's multiple ways to lose weight and then start training. And if you need to jog a little bit before you start the training, that's fine too. What's a solid run time for 35 or for sorry, for 5 mile run on the sand? I answered it halfway. Between 35 and 40 minutes. Now, I will say that's not a soft sand run. I would say that would be more of a, you know, hard pack sand run. So it's not that different than running. Put it this way: most runs at Buds is a 4 mile timed run. It's on hard pack sand, so low tide. You run next to the shore, kind of impactful, um, impact surface. You don't sink into it. And most people are running between 6 and 7 minute miles on that thing, and the minimum is an 8 minute mile. So for the first few weeks, so for a 4 mile timed run, I always try to get people to 28. For a 5 mile timed run, I would try to get people to 35 or less. How do I know if SF is the right path for me versus a stable, good income job? Well, if you're, I would say this: if you can't stop thinking about going SF or any job for that matter, then don't stop working towards it. And money shouldn't be the deciding factor on whether or not you serve in the military or not. You're not going to get rich serving in the military. You're going to get some great experience that's worth millions, in my opinion. And then from there, not only do you learn some discipline and how to get things done as a group, you can take that into any job in the future. My advice is this: while you're young, go serve. Get some really good experience. And then you can take that experience and do whatever job you want to do afterwards. There's no limit. But here's the deal: if you got to want to serve your country before anything, I would think the number one answer is, why do you do this? It's you want to serve your country. And you want to, if you're going in the special ops programs, you want to do something that's hard, that's not your average job, and you're producing a good outcome because of what you do. I love the motto of the Army SF, to free the oppressed. That's about as noble as you can get. Listen to Stu, fellas. I joined and got my eye surgery by the Navy. They never told me how hard it would be to cross rate. Yeah, man, I tell people all the time, hey, Stu, should I get eye surgery before I enlist? Or my recruiter says they'll pay for my eye surgery while I'm in the Navy. Well, I can't tell you how many years you will be in the Navy before you even get eye surgery. Then the cross rating is not an easy thing. It's easier to get to buds from high school than it is from the Navy. Because here's the deal: all you have to do when you're a recruit is pass a PST, pass all your stuff in the recruiting office, and you get to go to buds. Now, whether or not you make it through, that depends on your preparation. When you're in the Navy, you still have to pass the PST. You still have to be doing well in your current job so you get some chain of command support to be able to go. And your year group that you join the Navy has to be open for SEALs. Like if you're overmanned in the SEAL community in, let's say, 2020, which you won't be because I think that was a COVID year, so probably going to be undermanned. Um, but let's just say you're overmanned at 2020. That means if it's 2025 and you're trying to, and you joined the Navy 5 years ago and it's overmanned for your year group, you're probably not going. And if your job that you selected is undermanned, they're probably not going to let you go. So that's how hard it is to cross rate from the Navy. But it can happen. There's guys that come from the Navy every class. So it does happen. It just has to, there's some things out of your control that make it harder. Do you ever have times in your training where you don't want to follow a program and just want to change it up day to day or even something random? If so, how do you randomize your workout? I don't like to randomize my workouts that much, to be honest with you. I make my routine a week ahead of time and it goes into a system of training. So right now we are on a running progression with repetitions and calisthenics, very little weights, but we're maintaining strength as well. Um, so, for instance, today we just did a cardio day because Saturday was a butt kicking full body day, bunch of reps, and we ran a lot of miles last week. So we bumped Monday to be just a cardio day to rest our joints and muscles. And we just ran, we're going to run and swim today. That's it. Now, I personally was a little more sore than the 20-year-olds that are working out with us. So I decided after this warm up, I usually let the warm up decide how I'm going to move on with the workout. So I let the warm up decide how I do because nine times out of 10, if I do the warm up, I'm back in the game and I'm like, okay, I can do this workout, not a problem. However, today was not one of those days. Today was one of those days where I was like, you know what? My body hurts, my back hurts, my hips hurt, my hamstrings are tight. I probably don't need to be running these 800s at full speed. So I'm going to pull back, walk, jog, stretch a lot. So I basically turned my run workout this morning into a mobility day where I walked, jogged, stretched, walked, jogged, stretched for a good hour and a half. And it's just what I needed because now I'm feeling a whole lot better. But I feel like I at least did something. So that's how I make adjustments. It's really an adjustment of intensity versus a complete change of and do some random workout. Um, but sometimes I do random workouts. I have a buddy come from out of town and he has this new workout he wants to show me. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. All right. And you do it. But, it's not something that's a common occurrence. Good question though. How to know if that's okay, I just answered that one, right? What's your opinion on enlisting for SEALs after college instead of trying to be an officer? I've heard mixed opinions on taking that route. I've answered this question many, many times. I'm going to give you the quick answer. The quick answer is it's up to you. You can have a college degree, sure, go officer if you want to. Many people recommend that. Some people say don't do it and enlist if you really want to do the SEAL job. I get their point too, coming from the enlisted side. However, I'm kind of in the middle, and you can do both. My advice is this: if you want to go through the officer process, learn how to do that. It's going to probably add a good 9 to 12 months to your preparation, which isn't a bad thing. Um, because you'll go through SOAS over the summer. You have to submit in December, January, your PST scores and all your application stuff. Get selected to go to SOAS. You get a good exposure to what Buds is, where Buds is, all that stuff. That may inspire you to either come back as an officer or, you know what, I think I'd rather be enlisted. A lot of people do that and then come back around and enlist or go officer. If you decide to enlist, here's the cool thing about that is, you spend 4 or 5 years as enlisted, learn the job, get some really cool schools, and then go officer. Countless people do that. So why worry about people's opinions and do what's right for you? Because we all have opinions. Some people are just a little more um, absolutist about their opinions and tell you you're stupid for thinking one way or the other. I'm not that guy. I'm the middle where I say, if you want to go officer, go officer. If you want to go enlisted, go enlisted. If you want to do both, you can do both if you enlist first. There you go. Recruiter sold me to get the Navy to pay for it. Yep, that sucks. It happens. I have a text from somebody who I told them not to do that. I said, just get a job, pay for it yourself, do some more training. It'll give you an extra 6 months of training because you got to have that 6 month downtime after the surgery, be better prepared. And the guy still hadn't gone to Buds. That's been 2.5 years ago. And he sent me a text saying just what you did. I wish I'd have listened. Stu, I have the option of either going pilot or SF after college. Finding it really hard to decide. Got any advice? Great question, because you are talking my language. Because I was in the same position. I joined the military to be a pilot. I went to the Naval Academy thinking I was going to play football and be a pilot after I graduated. And I wound up doing nothing. I wound up playing rugby and becoming a SEAL. Long process of that journey made that transition from one to the other. But I will be honest with you, both jobs are awesome. If there's two jobs that I would want to do in the Navy, like put it this way, if for some reason I couldn't have gone to Buds, I would have become a pilot. Buds was my first choice. I would have done everything I can if, like, say, a disqualified or whatever for Buds, I was going to go be a pilot. Just seemed like another cool thing to do. And it's a good quality, a good qualification to have. All right, looks like I answered all those over there on Instagram. Let's see what we got over here on YouTube. Bjorn's blowing it up over here. Do you think if you're 30 plus, maybe Army SF or even National Guard Army may be better for you than Ranger SEALs or Air Force? I've seen 30 plus do all of the above. So I don't have an answer on which would be better. The better is depending on you. I will say this, though. Army Special Forces likes to have more mature operators in their programs because they're going to do things that not a lot of spec ops people do. Some do. It's kind of doing that now that there's not a full-blown war going on. But you'll go to another country and teach people combat systems and combat procedures. Basically, put them through boot camp. And, you might be in Poland, like, for instance, right now, training people to go into Ukraine. That might be happening. And if you have a 40-year-old dude in there with a beard and trying to learn systems, and you're 22 years old, fresh out of SF, Q course, it may be weird in some cultures to be getting lessons from somebody who can't even grow a beard yet. I know that is the way in, like, Afghanistan, for instance. So, anyway, I kind of rambled on this one, but yes, I think 30 plus is a great time to go Army SF. For law enforcement guys, SWAT, federal, who have National Guard, who went National Guard, Army, SF, what issues do you typically see when prepping them? What do they do well? What do they struggle with? Not much, to be honest with you. I mean, other than just typical recovery issues of a 30-year-old compared to a 20-year-old. You're going to have to sleep well, eat well, stretch, foam roll, massage, all of those things just to feel normal after a long, hard day on your feet, doing a lot of difficult things, than somebody who's 10 years younger than you. Not that it's horrible, but it's just a factor that you have to deal with. Just like that 20-year-old has to deal with maturity issues. You don't have to deal with maturity issues because with your maturity comes a decrease in recovery. It's a cruel system. But if you get really locked in on your sleep and nutrition and um, massage and flexibility, mobility, it's all going to be very helpful. But that's the biggest thing they struggle with. And he continues, kind of random, but if you had to choose another path in Spec Ops, what would it have been and why? Um, hmm. Well, for me, because I made a decision to go Naval Academy at 18 years old, I was kind of limited limited to Navy Marine Corps. However, there are some inter-service transfers that could occur, but I never really thought about it. I could have maybe, if I didn't want to go regular Navy, I could have gone regular Army. If somebody in the Army from West Point wanted to go regular Navy, we could have made that swap. That's how it works. So I just never really looked into the process of that. But I would say I know a lot of people who did their Navy time, even as officers, resigned their commission and enlisted into the Army Special Forces and did a full career as an Army Special Forces Green Beret enlisted guy. So that happens as well. I don't know, be honest with you. I mean, there's some great Spec Ops opportunities out there. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, even. It just depends on you, on how you want to serve. I don't think there's a wrong answer. I knew I wanted to live near a beach when I decided to join the Navy. And if you look at all the Navy bases, there's always a beach nearby. You look at the Army bases, not so much. And everybody in my family was Army. So I was the 18-year-old kid that says, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do, and I'm going to serve in the Navy. I think out of like wanting to be different than everybody else in my family. Not that I didn't respect their service. I just, was, I think, maybe a little stubborn in that sense, which can happen to a young 18-year-old. Even though I was getting a lot of advice to go Army and then go police after Army, because that's what my granddad did. He retired from the Army and then retired as a police chief. Did real well in his retirement. So a lot of opportunities. Let's see. Looks like a couple people asking more questions. Oh, PRK or LASIK? You can do either one. Both are waiverable. They used to not be. In the 90s, neither one of them were waiverable. But I would say the Navy's probably more comfortable with PRK, but both are waiverable. All right, let's see what else we got here. I've heard doing an air squat and dumbbell RDL circuit before rucking gives a better training effect. What about 3 sets of AMRAPs 225, for example, before the ruck? Um, yeah, I don't know about that. I typically do air squats and RDLs before I run or ruck. In fact, I do a little half pyramid like this. So I'll do a squat and a toe touch, which is basically straight legged RDL, if you think about it. No weight, both air. And I'll jog 100 yards, 2 squats, 2 toe touches, jog 100 yards, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, all the way up to 10, which is 55 squats and 55 RDLs or toe touches, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes I'll have dumbbells over there where we'll do dumbbell RDLs. So nothing really that heavy, but it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. I personally like that as my warm up. And usually by set 5 or 6, I'm already warmed up and I'll finish up 7, 8, 9, 10 and really be ready to go do anything really. Run, ruck, hills, sprints. That is one of my favorites. And it's just about in every one of my programs. In fact, let me see if you guys can see this. Oh, look at this. Legs and cardio. I don't know if you can see that or not. Legs and cardio day right here. Little squat pyramid, 1 to 10. Run 100 yards. So you do 55 squats and 1,000 yards of jogging, and that's a pretty good warm up. We do that in the winter as well outside. And sometimes in between sets, we'll do like a mini one, 1 to 5, just to stay warm in between sets because we lift outside in the winter. Try to get used to those temperatures. How old were you when I went to Buds? I went to Buds at 22, right after college, turned 23 halfway through. How do you determine the proper seat height on a stationary bike? Any good stationary bike workouts lately? Yeah, I don't have any new ones on the stationary bike workout. I do have that article that I personally, these are my 3 go-to. 3 bike workouts, Stu Smith. Let me see. Where did it go? Bike workout. Here's one of them. For some reason, I can't find the 3 that I was talking about. Here's one of them. It's called the Bike Pyramid. A lot of fun. Let's see. Maybe 3 bike workouts, military.com. I think it was Stu Smith. You know what? I did a YouTube on it, actually. In fact, I'll just link the YouTube video right here and you can see them. There you go. Wanting to join SF with National Guard, but my hypothyroidism came up. Recruiter said he'll apply for a waiver, but not get my hopes up. Kind of nervous. Have you seen anyone with this condition? I don't know what hypothyroidism requires as far as treatment. If that is one of those things that's a daily dose of medicine that you have to bring with you everywhere you go, that may be an issue in the Army. But if you run out, you can't get resupplied, what's that going to do to you? That's why like diabetes is an issue. Even type 1, even though you're a freaking stud, type 1 diabetes is going to probably require insulin. But I don't know. I don't want to crush your dreams here by saying probably not, but I just truly don't know. Though I have seen waivers for just about everything. So I don't know. All right, let's see here. Damn, boy, blowing it up here. Are land navigation courses you'd really recommend for Army SF? Seems like there's some kills a metric ton of Army SF candidates. Yeah, you got to learn how to do some land navigation. That's a good question. There's a couple places around here that teach land navigation. My advice is do a good Google search and see what you can find. Sometimes it may be an online course that teaches the map and compass side of it. And then the other part is application where you actually go and do that on a course. Something that we have done in the past is we linked up with this local high school, and you're going to laugh, junior ROTC program. That high school had an orienteering team. So if you don't know what orienteering team is, it is basically like cross country with land nav. It's really cool. And these kids know land nav, plus they run to get to that point. So that it's not a known route. You have to determine what that route is by putting your number in a box every time you hit these things, and then it's a timed event. So orienteering training may be something you could also look up, because I know there's probably half a dozen high schools that still do it, maybe even some colleges that do it. I know one of the students that was on that JROTC program that also did orienteering team went to West Point and competed in that there as well. So give that a shot, maybe. I don't know. See what where they're doing their training, and you might be able to get the map and compass of that and test it out yourself. In your experience, how much advantage do boxers, wrestlers, and serious jujitsu guys have at Spec Ops selection? Does it provide a ton of grit? Oh, absolutely. I mean, any combative sport is a great pre-training for any Spec Ops program. Now, I can't tell you how many wrestlers have done really, really well at SEAL training specifically if, and this is the only if, they can swim. I don't know if you've ever tried to teach a wrestler how to swim. It's like it looks like someone's doing ground and pound to the water while they're swimming. It's not pretty. It's a lot of energy wasted and they're exhausted. But if you can teach a wrestler how to swim, they usually do really well at those Spec Ops training programs. And to be honest with you, any athlete that's a land athlete needs to learn how to swim. Wrestlers just, for some reason, just beat up the water when you get them into the water. Providing one is still improving their lift numbers and doing well everywhere else, would you say 35, 45 miles a week be a max candidate should run per week, or is more always better? I would never classify more running as always better. I would say more goal pace running is always better, versus doing too much long, slow distance or too much sprinting, because you don't need either really. And if you get too good at either one of those, you're probably not going to be able to meet a pace. I've seen a lot of 50, 60 mile a week runners not be able to do an 8-minute mile, when they go to training, because they've just been focusing on 9, 10-minute mile pace. Get that aerobic base going, where they need to learn how to move their legs a little faster. Same for sprinters. I've seen sprinters just keep running fast and not build up the endurance they need. So it's kind of you got to be somewhere right in the middle of that. In fact, today's workout, we did 6 800s. We jogged a mile over to the track, 6 800s, did some abs and neck, and then jogged a mile back. So 5 miles altogether, but 3 of those miles were at 800 yards at goal pace. So that meant, and I even gave them a range. I said, you can try a sub 6-minute mile pace, for your mile and a half, 2-mile timed runs, or you can try a 7-minute mile pace for your 4 5-mile timed runs. Those are good paces to learn how to run, and that's what this workout was all about. I didn't want to see anybody going 230 unless 5-minute mile was their pace, which we didn't have anybody doing that. It was just setting it at that 3-minute mark, maybe 2:55. Just be a little sub 6-minute pace, or do it with the 7. And we had both people, both groups practicing those paces, and that's a good way to do it. And if you can make good majority of your runs like that, maybe a long slow distance and a one sprint workout a week, I think you got it covered. 35-45 is sufficient in my advice. um let's see. How much of an advantage is there in taking a full 3 to 4 years to prepare for SF selection? Also, are those who are in law enforcement, how much of a detractor can serving full-time SWAT be, or can it help? Well, here's the problem with any type of service is you're going to be working odd hours quite often. Most SWAT missions are done pitch black at night, so that means your sleep's going to be altered. That could mess you up with just your basic circadian rhythms. So your recovery may be somewhat affected. It may not be. I don't know. But you really have to nail down your nutrition and sleep when you can, when you're training hard. 3 to 4 years. Yeah, I mean that's logical. I mean, put it this way. I look back at my athletic history, and that was good training towards special ops jobs. So football, powerlifting, wrestling, track, all of those were good experiences for me. Baseball, I was a catcher in Florida. It's always hot. It's just miserable putting on wet pads, just not fun. So there's a grit to all of it, I think. Though baseball is not that hard physically on you, it is very technically focused, but there's some challenges physically anyway. But anyway, yeah. So all of those things were a good preparation for me to have a foundation going into a spec ops training. So if you don't do anything and you don't have any foundation going in, you may need to spend more time in your preparation versus take 6 months and prepare. You may not be ready in that time if you haven't spent years developing a certain level of grit and strength foundation, durability, work capacity. All of those things are very important in this journey. So more time may be needed. Now, I have seen people who come to me and start preparing specifically for spec ops and are only here for 2 or 3 months because they've spent their high school years and college years playing sports at a high level. They have some exceptional strengths, and we just have to fine tune some of their weaknesses, teach them how to swim if they're a land athlete, um, get them in the weight room if they're an endurance athlete, you know, get them out of the weight room and running more if they're a lifting athlete. So sometimes it doesn't take long at all, 2 3 months, and they're ready to go and go crush it. Sometimes, depending on that weakness, it may take years. So there's no one answer to that one. Sub 6 is insane to hear as a strength athlete, but I see what you mean by doing it on 800s as practice. Sub 6 isn't that bad. I will tell you, we have guys sub 6 all the time. In fact, that is our standard, is get that run down to 9 minutes without it being a complete gut check. So they're capable of running sub 6. We're just, putting that 9-minute mile and a half in there for the end of that PST or IFT. And no matter what that athlete is. Swimmers have a hard time sub 6 than strength athletes. So there you go. All right, let's see what else we got. Morning Stu followed your PST Phase 1 program going for EOD dive in January. How do I tell if body composition is holding me back from competitive scores? I'm not shredded. 6 feet, 170. Leaner equals faster. Um, I mean, that's pretty lean. I don't know if it's holding you back. I mean, I guess it depends. Are your cardio scores really good? Because if they're not, then your leanness isn't helping. If your PSTs are lacking, maybe maybe you got longer limbs. I don't know. Maybe you need to put on some mass, get a little stronger. But putting on 10, 15 pounds is not out of the question. I'm 6 feet, and I went to buds at 205 to 195. I started at 205, and by the time I graduated, I was 195 and pretty lean for me. But I had some muscle mass on, and that was helpful. Do you believe prayer helps in discipline? Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, if you think about it psychologically, um, prayer is a form of self talk, um, though you are speaking with a greater entity, um, if you believe. So I think there's nothing wrong with prayer as a good source for discipline. Instead of asking, yeah, here's the good thing though. It's like, you know, you'll see these in memes quite often. You ask to be stronger, so you know God put a challenge in front of you. You ask to be more patient, so God made you wait here for 2 hours, right? You ask to be more disciplined, so God put this window for you to train no matter what, right? So you can think of a bunch of different ways. Like, do you answer that call? So, yeah, I mean, I think it can be helpful, depending on your faith. Not knocking it, put it that way. Hey, I'm going to be in this year's summer seminar. Will you be there? Yes, I will be there. I'll be there on Tuesday of summer seminar. And just let me tell you, I want you to prepare for this. We're going to do something I call death by push-ups. And it's hard, but it's doable. It's more mental than it is physical. Death by push-ups is this. We're going to get in the push-up position, and we're going to stay there for 10 minutes. So you're basically doing a plank pose. You can either be in your up push-up position or you can be in the plank, because there's two events during the Navy fitness test you have to do, push-ups and planks. If you want to get good at both of them, do death by push-ups. And it is a 10-minute plank. Every minute on the minute, we're going to do 5 to 10 push-ups, depending on your fitness level. And we move out of the up push-up position and do 10 push-ups. So practice that. I'm already practicing it, so I'm ready to go crush it in front of 800 high school kids, which is just very fun for me. I enjoy doing it. It will be not a punishment exercise. I will be teaching people. I take very seriously that for most people in that audience, it's their first time ever experiencing a military group training exercise. So I try to make it very educational and a lot of fun. And we'll have fun doing it. Tell you stories about Midshipman Smith as well. All right. Good luck with that. Hey, Stu, plan on starting up phase 1 of your program. Sadly, I don't have access to a pool, only a lake. How would I structure my swims? I'll be lifeguarding this summer. Well, if you can get the swim bungee, right? I mean, you can, if you want to make it safe and if there's no lifeguards available for you, um, just swim distance and time. Okay, just If you don't know the distance, mark it along the side of the lake if you can. Like go from cone to cone, put a buoy out there, do something. Um, Swim to that buoy and back, and you know that's 100 yards. Right? Nothing wrong with that. I mean, just treat it like an open water swim workout with fins one day, without fins the next day. That's the way I would do it. It's a lot of fun. And if you need to do a um, get a swim bungee, tie it to the end of a pier, and just stay in one location and swim. And you just do it for time. So whatever time it takes you to swim 100, you do that. Do that freestyle. Do 50 CSS. Whatever the workout prescribes. But you can just get creative with that one. But if you have a specific workout in there, I can explain it to you specifically. Just send me an email and I'll walk you through it. Viva Swan, 165, 5'11, do 50 push ups, 10 pull ups. Not bad. I'm not fully lean, so I want to cut down to 150. I'd say just get more muscle. And I don't want to be too skinny for USNA. Does weight matter? No, I mean, weight matters. Yeah. I mean, there's a height weight standard you need to adhere to, but you're nowhere near it. Um, yeah, my advice is just keep working out, and you're young, so your body's going to start evolving a little bit. You'll be burning some fat, building some muscle at the same time. You might not gain or lose a single pound, but you'll notice it in inches lost. And I think that is where you'll be happy with it. So, yeah, just keep training. Watch what you're eating. Don't eat too much, if you're trying to lose weight, but don't starve yourself either, because you need energy to train hard. Let's see. I've seen that lead arm, trail arm swimming is a possibility for Air Force Special Operations. Yeah, not just a possibility. You do it with fins. When I'm training with fins, I notice that when I switch back to bare feet in the water, it was worse. Any suggestions? Um, no, it's just awkward. I mean, it takes a little bit of time. I mean, I think it just feels worse. Um, my advice is actually time it. So do your swims with fins, time your 100, right? Do your swims without fins before and after those fins. Just see where your hundreds are. I think you may find it's not that significant difference. It just feels weird because you feel like you're going slower because the water's not moving past you the way it does when you have fins on. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't sweat that too much. Always feels weird when you take your fins off and start swimming without them. How long does it take on average to go from novice swimmer to spec ops level swimmer for a fit individual? Not long. Usually, I be honest with you, I've seen people learn the technique in a day and then get in shape to crush a 500-yard swim in 3 to 4 weeks. So a month, depending on your abilities. And then you start adding in swimming with fins. That doesn't take that long. I mean, it takes about a month to get used to the big fins and your ankle mobility because there's a lot of torque that hits them. Conditioning wise, about the same. So you could do it a couple of months with both and then add in some, pool skills, treading, drown proofing, underwater swim, stuff like that, you know, all at the same time. So I would say most of my guys who show up here coming in decently fit, land athlete, learn how to swim, get in shape to swim within a month to 6 weeks. Now, we swim 5 days a week, sometimes six. So that helps as well. Plus, I'm there yelling at them every time I see a red flag pop up with their technique. So we're constantly drilling technique. I feel that the water is moving through my toes and past my feet for a lot more. Yeah, when you take your fins off, that's the way it is. When doing the Sam Baby Devil Murph workout, is the goal to be able to finish it or finish it within a certain amount of time? Also, how are y'all doing that specific workout? I do it as written on that article. In fact, if you Google the term Sand Baby Devil Murph workout, it's a Murph, it's a log PT simulator, and it's the Devil Smile all rolled into one. It's a hard workout. We did it on Saturday. That's why I kind of needed, I personally need a mobility day today. Everybody else just ran. But we did it as written. You see it from top to bottom. Follow the top to bottom. That's how we do it. And I'm not necessarily worried about time, because here's a problem when you interject a time requirement into any of these workouts, reps start looking like crap because people are just sprinting through them. Their push ups are half push ups, pull ups are half pull ups. Just nothing looks good. So I prefer to just do full range of motion, everything, get through it in as few sets as possible, crush it, and not worry about your time. I will say most of us got it done in like an hour and a half. So there were a few people in the 80-minute zone, which was pretty good. How does technique change for open water versus pool CSS? I live next to a lake outside of town. Don't have a pool, only can lake swim. Nothing wrong with that. I don't think it changes anything other than most people when they're in a pool don't have to worry about swimming straight. When you're in a lake or open water, you have to make sure you're swimming straight, whether you parallel an edge of a pool or you actually look up forward every 5 or 10 strokes, make sure you're heading in the right direction. Because if you're not paying attention, most swimmers, especially if you're a non swimming athlete learning how to swim, most swimmers will go in a big circle in about 5 minutes. Seen it happen. You don't pay attention. If you black out your mask, you're swimming in a circle. Just the way it works. You're like a one-legged duck out there. Would you recommend doing more calisthenics or weightlifting? It depends. If you're a strength athlete, I would recommend you doing more calisthenics. If you're an endurance athlete, I would recommend you doing more weightlifting. Get a little stronger, then do calisthenics. So it depends, sir, on your weaknesses. I am not good at treading water yet, so what should I do at Usna if I have to go into deep pools? Watch some treading videos. You got a few weeks. Practice some treading. You'll be fine. Stay close to the edge. You're not going to do a whole lot of swimming there the week that you're there. You'll probably just jump in the pool to cool down from a hot day, but there's no real swim requirement there. I mean, they may teach you a few swim strokes. Just be in listen and learn mode. But yeah, get in the pool and practice treading. You can practice it however you want with hands, figure eight, your hands. There's some good videos out there on treading. All right, so this is the last two questions, and I gotta go. Viviswan says, "Can I ask you questions about certain issues I have while working out at USNA?" Yes, but do it by email. I don't have time to answer them today by this live, so send me an email. You got questions? Happy to answer them. What's up, Stu? I have a mild hypoxic event near shallow water blackout last Monday. Took the week off to reset from underwater swims. Should I be good again now? What is that? Good start again now? I mean, I don't know. I mean, try not to do hypoxic stuff for a while. Just swim normally. Lay off the underwater swims. You shouldn't be over. Here's the deal: when you do an underwater swim, focus on efficiency instead of speed. Because what I want you to do is do a 25 in as few strokes as possible. Okay, don't try to get over there like this fast as you can. You wondering why you're chewing up all your oxygen. You should be able to get over there in 4 or 5 strokes and just hold glides. You should be able to glide across the pool, not stroke constantly across the pool. So work on that more than anything. Work on your efficiency of the stroke. And if you look at my underwater videos here on YouTube, you'll see some good, efficient strokes on how to do it. It's just gliding. Should I bring a mask to? Yeah, bring it. Bring goggles or mask. Up to you. All right, folks, I got to go. It's been fun. I appreciate all the questions. You guys did great. You guys stick around this long. You can go to stewsmithfitness.com. Use the live15 coupon code, save 15%. Tons of stuff over there. But there's also a lot of free stuff in there and articles. Probably a lot of these questions can be found in those articles over there. But you can Google it, put my name in the search, and I've probably written about it. I've been doing this a long time. I write 3 articles a week, so chances are, last 25 years at that rate, I've probably written about it. Definitely have heard it before. Very rarely do I hear a new question. All right, guys, I got to head out. I hope you guys have a good one. If I miss your question or you think of a new one, send it. stew@stewsmith.com. Otherwise, go check out stewsmithfitness.com. Tons of more articles over there. All right. You guys have a good one.